people are a lot like the country formerly known as Yugoslavia. For both of us, over time, things change, and that's okay. You might have liked your teddy bear as a kid, or maybe it was dinosaurs or going to the playground. If you were a fucking nerd like me, you might have liked books. Now, as an adult, the only thing you like is Astolfo fan art on Twitter, and that's okay. No matter how old we get, the one thing we don't outgrow with time is the nostalgic love for the things that we loved growing up. For me, that thing is Kingdom Hearts. I have a complex relationship with the franchise, but the crowns and the keys and those doofy-ass shoes have been seared into my brain matter. And barring an experimental surgery to remove said brain matter, I cannot escape this dipshit right here. As I've aged, a Stockholm Syndrome has been born, where I try to convince myself that I don't care, I don't need to know what's going to happen to Sauron, Dolan, and Garfunkel, but then the second Tetsuya Nomura arises from his third heroin bender this year, mumbling to himself and scribbling on a chalkboard in between hits from his vape, no matter how much I might want to ignore it, I still listen. And realistically, writing out this video to discuss the game design, batshit crazy plot, music, and artistic choices. I can't fucking read. Artistic choices of Kingdom Hearts is much cheaper than therapy. It is also one less Kingdom Hearts lore dump that will be subjected onto an unsuspecting art therapy graduate. They don't deserve that. Today, we are taking a deep dive not into the psychology of others, but the psychology of myself as a child. Was this game actually difficult, or was the difficulty simply my lack of control over my own thumbs and motor functions as a 7-year-old? What the fuck is going on with the story? What were some of the truly impressive game design choices, and does Kingdom Hearts still hold up today? For both my sake editing as well as your sake viewing, it will be divided into chapters. This took a very long time to write, record, edit, and revise, so I do hope you enjoy the final product. I will be playing the PC port of the Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 remix, which is quite the mouthful. This is both to make it easier on your eyes, as well as to make it easier for me to capture. I'll be on the standard difficulty rather than proud as well, because I want to see just how bad the skill issue was when I wore the oversized yellow shoes as a kid. This is not necessarily a retrospective or a review, which is my typical content. It's a mix of those, and a step in a new direction for me, writing out a full-on video essay. I want to look at this game in an entirely new light from a different perspective at a different time in my life, and hopefully verbalize some of the things that a lot of people that play these games feel but have a hard time communicating. This is Kingdom Hearts Revisited, picking apart my childhood.
I've been having these weird thoughts lately.
Right off the bat with the intro, not everything survived the jump from CRT to 1440p with these weird black bars on the side. And there will be more moments like this throughout the game where about 90% of it got upgraded to HD, but some of that charming jank is still there. That's also all you get of the intro music because Disney can and will copyright strike me where the sun don't shine. So you get Sea Shanty 2 from old school RuneScape instead. Just imagine it's this wild Western EDM mixed with the very Eastern anime-looking visuals. That's one of the coolest parts about Kingdom Hearts, just how varied the inspirations are. The game as a whole is this insane mashup between Eastern and Western cultures that completely works. It's like the first time someone told you to use mayo instead of butter on a grilled cheese. It sounds like heresy in theory, but in practice, it kicks ass. The complete overload of edginess was almost too much for my walnut-sized child brain to comprehend, but as we will see, when it comes to Kingdom Hearts, they always have more angst in the tank. Man, I really hope this video does well so I can take a crack at Kingdom Hearts 2.
You gonna cry?
The intro and tutorial provide the perfect precursor to the rest of the series, really. It's remarkable to me how much of the tone and themes they set up right here that carry on through every other game. They nailed a lot of it first try. which cannot be said for a lot of franchises. The ominous voice, the gothic and abstract architecture with stained glass art of Disney princesses, the chorus vocalizing in the back of it all. The lack of cohesion tonally between the Disney brand and everything else that Kingdom Hearts does is part of the charm though. Now, I'm sure that in some ways the weapon choices presented to us here at the start matter statistically quite a bit for the people doing high difficulty runs, but on the base difficulty, I say, choose what your heart wants. Sorry about that. I chose the shield because I never had before, and what I did not know is that all they did was replace the asset without changing the animation Sora uses if you pick up a sword, so he just kind of swings the shield like a sword and it looks hilarious. Now, when you get teleported to this beach area and the Final Fantasy characters showed up, Child Jake got very confused. Adult Jake knows these weird questions are just hiding choices about how fast you level up. So I take all the top answers because it makes level 1 to 50 go way faster. But Child Jake took this really seriously. I thought it was something that would wildly change the ending and have consequences throughout the game, so I got real philosophical with it. It is good to know that I've abandoned that childlike innocence and wonder for sheer optimization like an Amazon warehouse. I have a very distinct memory of most of this game kicking my ass as a kid. I mean, I was a kid. I had a kid brain and kid fingers, and I didn't know how to use either of them, so it makes sense. But now, Adult Jake can come back and air combo the shit out of this dude's fist, even with this wonky-ass shield. You'll see a common theme arising with the strategy for most enemies and bosses in this game.
Whoa!
The morning arrives, the tropical island vibes kick in, and there she is, she who shall not be named, because you're going to hear it 500 times over the course of the game, but you're only going to actually see her a handful of times. As an adult, I have a preference for snarky redheads that I always thought started with Daphne from Scooby-Doo and Kim Possible, but it may have started here as my 7-year-old self got defensive and jealous over Riku sharing a fake fruit with pixels on a screen. Did my 7-year-old brain know what that response meant? No, not at all. I just knew I wanted to whoop Riku's ass. I still thought girls were yucky at that point, but now as an adult, I can look back on that time and surmise that Kairi was probably Child Jake's first crush. As a sidebar, writing this script, I realized that I can blame Kim Possible for indoctrinating me not just into liking redheads, but also goth women with Shigo. Damn you, Disney, with your hot goth girl propaganda. Destiny Islands is a weird world because I have such distinct memories of it, which leads me to believe that either I spent a shitload more time here than I needed to, or it was just that iconic. You get to slowly learn some of the combat mechanics like tech parries and how to avoid desperation moves. And you also probably hear your first instance of this noise. Now, Riku is the real asshole here, as he is for most of the game because he is specifically designed to punish people that are impatient, which is, you know, most of the kids that would be playing this game when it came out. He parries the shit out of you and uses desperation moves to kick you out of your finisher. And as you get to the end of the fight, he starts using his kick way more frequently. Even returning to this fight now, I still got pretty close to losing. Now we collect all the supplies for our raft and give them to Kairi, and the first day ends. In these early cutscenes, a lot of stuff kind of happens and gets said that I don't imagine they wanted you to think too hard about. Where exactly are they going on this raft? Where are the rest of the Destiny Islands? Where are the parents? Where do the kids actually live? Where is the school? How does everyone eat and live? And where do you buy toilet paper? As the games progress, they kind of flesh out some of this stuff a little bit with some good old-fashioned retconning, but it definitely leaves a lot out there that just kind of doesn't make sense, which will be a common theme for Kingdom Hearts as a franchise, especially when they do things like make a mobile game not only canon, but important canon for the mainline titles. There's a reason full timelines of Kingdom Hearts are multiple hour-long videos, even when they are condensed. Riku also drops this line on you.
Sora! You wanted one, didn't you?
A Palpu fruit?
If two people share one, their destinies become intertwined. They'll remain a part of each other's lives, no matter what. Come on, I know you want to try it.
What are you talking?
Sora likes Kairi. Aww. But he's also 100% ready to razz him about it, and I think it's interesting that he eventually ends up kind of dating Kairi's alter ego, because I don't know how much of the teasing is just messing with Sora versus Riku having a little crush on Kairi too. If you wonder why I keep mentioning the relationship dynamic and how much Sora loves Kairi, it's because whether or not it's ever going to be resolved in Kingdom Hearts 4 and onward, the friendship story does come first in Kingdom Hearts, but the mainline games in particular have this recurring undertone of Sora and Kairi's love story. Is it fleshed out? Does the storyline mature along with the audience experiencing it? Is it given a lot of screen time? No. But it is an important part of the franchise because the current fandom is a bunch of grown men screaming at an edgy Japanese game dev to make two fake characters kiss. Shit gets weird. On day 2, for the honor of sharing a fake fruit with Kairi and the naming of our raft, we get to race Riku. And I name the raft the only thing I can name it, which is subscribe. Haha, gotcha, bitch. Anyways, we kick Riku's ass again, and bing bang bop, the ship is now named the thing you should do. And Sora gets to share a Palpu with Kairi, so their destinies will forever be intertwined. You don't actually get to do this, so for now, it's just a moral victory, but we'll take it. Suck shit, Riku. We go collect the food to stock our raft, and in the secret place, which is a cave Sora and Kairi used to draw in when they were younger, we get our first instance of many to follow where a weird dude in a hood shows up, says some cryptic shit, and then disappears explaining nothing. I am curious as to the order of operations in the writing room for Kingdom Hearts. Did they start with the weird stuff and add the plot after, or start with the plot and add the weird stuff along the way? As the series has progressed, it's become weirder and more convoluted than ever. I'm inclined to believe the Kingdom Hearts writing team has a weird bullshit first policy, but who knows? We drop all our food off with Kairi and get a shot of them talking on the pier where Kairi seems pretty apprehensive about Riku for some reason.
You know, Riku has changed.
What do you mean?
Well...
You okay?
Sora, let's take the raft and go. Just the two of us.
Huh?
Just kidding.
What's gotten into you? You're the one that's changed, Kairi.
I'm sure that won't come up later or anything. Overnight, we hear Sora's mom and see that there's actually a separate island they live on and row over to the tutorial island, which fills in some of the info for the "this makes no fucking sense" part of the game. If I had to guess, we don't see the other islands when we're running around the game world because of hardware limitations on the PS2. Riku is here in the middle of the storm, and our wooden sword does not hurt these little ant-looking things as much as it hurts Selphie, so we run over to him. Something is way off with Riku. He is very confident and seems to know a lot more than we do.
The door is open.
What?
The door is open, Sora. Now we can go to the outside world.
What are you talking about? We gotta find Kairi.
Kairi's coming with us. Once we step through, we might not be able to come back. We may never see our parents again. There's no turning back. But this may be our only chance. We can't let fear stop us. I'm not afraid of the darkness.
He disappears into the darkness, and as we are reaching for him, a light saves us, and... we got a giant fucking key. I'm sure that the specifics of this event won't pop up later or anything. I'll stop doing that now. The TLDR is that there's a lot of important things happening really fast. A door is where the entrance to the secret cave was, and while we make our way over to it, we fight much larger groups of these little ant-looking things. This is the basic enemy type, and although Sora is short because he's a child, the regular enemies here are even shorter, and every time they flatten themselves into invincibility in the ground, Sora starts doing the Pine Grove shuffle over their untargetable bodies. They don't pose too much of a threat on their own, but they sure do slow down any unskippable combat encounters because you just kind of sit there, waiting. Any day now. Through the door, we find Kairi on the wrong end of a bad mushroom trip. The door busts down and takes her along with it, turning down her opacity in the process. Fade to black, and that's the last of the island we're going to see for a long while now. If you have played this game before, you might be wondering why I've left out a rather important part of it. It is high time we talk about Disney.
Hey now, hey now.
It's time to stop!
You see, Kingdom Hearts is the first real multiverse. Marvel can't even keep up with this shit. Donald and Goofy are knights in King Mickey's castle, and the king has gone missing. He left a note saying they have to find someone with a key, and I sure wonder who that is. There is a slowly ramping up back and forth that the game tries to do with Donald and Goofy circling Sora that does work way better as a gag later on in Traverse Town. But, I mean, look how weird this cut is earlier in the game. I mean, it's just so jarring.
Who the fuck is that guy?
That being said, I could only avoid the crossover episode for so long. Welcome to Traverse Town. If you thought that this kid and this kid were the same kid, you'd be forgiven. A lot of the hairstyles look similar in Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy for that matter, all very spiky and odd. I don't think they have barbers in this universe, just a shitload of hairspray. Now there's actually a lot of secrets all over the place, like this Trinity symbol, which we'll start using later once we have, you know, a Trinity. For now, we can run around and really get slapped in the face with the fact that this is the crossover game of the century. Huey, Dewey, and Gooey are running the item store, and Sid from Final Fantasy is running the accessory shop. I'm going to try to not make a big deal of the crossover characters because it is odd, but that's just kind of how this game rolls, and this is already shaping up to be an obnoxiously long video, so I'll save the time where I can. We enter the second district, and this dude fucking dies, which introduces us to the concept of the Heartless. In future games, there will be a lot more than that, and if this video does well, I cannot wait to have 100 wiki pages open to write the script for KH2 and 3. But for now, this is going to be our main enemy throughout the game. The whole concept in and of itself is, like, absurdly dark, and I'm not going to get too into it, but like, just every time you see a Heartless, just think to yourself, a human being died in order for me to fight this enemy right here. Now, the game does have platforming right here at the start, but it's a little janky. Like, let's ignore this chest for a second. This tree right here, this tree was not designed to be climbed in this game. I swear to God it was an afterthought. Sometimes if you get the angle wrong, it'll just decide to make you slide off whatever you're jumping on, which can get very annoying in certain worlds if you don't make use of the movement tech. But we just hop over this ledge for now and start the chasing our tail bit that I was talking about earlier with Donald and Goofy. It's a lot more fun here as a bit than it was earlier though. All Sora is concerned with for now though is finding Riku and Kairi. Something you'll see me doing a lot through this game is what I alluded to earlier. A tiny little hop by just barely pressing the jump button and then an air combo. The main reason for this is speed of execution. It gets your whole combo off faster, which will get out your finisher faster, which not only does more damage, but also has a stagger that will be necessary as the enemy health bars get bigger. It's also marginally safer because the recovery time before you can act again is faster with the air combo than the ground combo. This will be slowly changing as we add more skills to our main combo, but for now, air combo till I fucking die. There's a cool side area in Traverse Town here, which is the 101 Dalmatians house, which will act as this game's middle finger to the completionists. You find batches of the 101 in chests around the game, and they will slowly populate these rooms so you can come back and see all the little doggos you've found running around safe and sound. Even now, in the year of our Lord 2023, as an adult with a college degree and a job, I still got the sequencing of running around with Donald and Goofy wrong. So I can only imagine how many frustrated kids running in circles wondered, what the fuck do I do here? Well, fudge. What the fudge do I do here? Kids don't swear. After you loop around to the first area though, you get to meet the man, the myth, the legend, our first real skill check in this game, Squall. Well, Leon. Now, technically, you are supposed to lose here. I know there's a bunch of sweaty neckbeards that are going to tell me how they beat it first try level 1 with their eyes closed and their butt plugs turned up all the way. But let's be real. Kids are the audience for this game, and they're going to be impatient. They're not going to use their potions, and they are going to lose. Leon is still a son of a bitch if you did not level up very much on Destiny Islands, which I did not, but waiting out his attacks makes it a lot less stressful, and beating him grants you this special iteration of the cutscene.
No way. I can lose.
Now you're gonna get...
Oh, you're slipping, Leon.
I went easy on him. Looks like things are worse than we thought. A lot worse.
I never got to see that as a kid, and I always wondered what happened if you beat him, so getting that was kind of gratifying. We get this cool back and forth of Donald, Goofy, and Sora getting the TLDR on what the fuck is going on, which basically boils down to all of the worlds that were previously not connected are connected now, and there's these weird little bug things called Heartless murdering people. This cutscene is also mildly culturally significant too, because this was the first time some of these Final Fantasy characters received voice acting. Cloud's voice actor from Kingdom Hearts 1, who we will meet later, carried on with the role for all future versions of Cloud, which is pretty cool. Now the fun gets interrupted and Donald gets bug splat, so you chase the Heartless out of the hotel and we meet the mini armored Heartless in combat for the first time. These guys are a little chunkier and tech our attacks a lot more, so they require nothing extra. Just more air combos. I will say, air comboing on the little Heartless can be a bit tricky because if the first hit doesn't connect, you obviously don't combo, and Sora has a bad habit of swinging right over their heads. In the plaza in District 3, finally the trio gets together for our first actual boss, Captain Buggy from One Piece. The intro music kicks ass, by the way. Now, the attack patterns here are pretty neat for a first crack at a boss, where the limbs detach and start windmilling, but as you slowly take out each piece of the armor, it starts hopping around on one leg, or just spinning its body once that's all it's got left. Same strat here though, air combo the ever-loving shit out of everything. With the boss down, we get a sneak peek of some of the upcoming Disney worlds, with the main antagonists of each world in a round table of evil. Actual nightmare blunt rotation. One of the cool things about this game, if you do like Disney stuff, is that a lot of the original film's voice actors actually returned to voice their characters for Kingdom Hearts 1. Anyways, these guys aren't too happy that Sora hasn't kicked the bucket yet, so they're all going to take a crack at it sooner or later. Meanwhile, Donald, Goofy, and the Final Fantasy crew of Traverse Town all encourage Sora to journey with the double dipshits if he wants to find Riku and Kairi. Before we head out to the gummy ship, Donald casually teaches us fire magic and Goofy teaches us to dodge roll, as well as hitting our first trinity of the game, the one that I mentioned before out in the cafe. Donald and Goofy give the weirdest introduction to the gummy ship ever, with Donald giving the banger line of seek out the missions each world has to offer. Gummy ship missions are honestly quite a nice break between worlds that I will 100% be sick of by the end of the game. Eventually you get access to some teleporting options, but for now, if you want to go anywhere, gotta take the highway drive to get there. There's a lot going on with the gummy ship missions that you can 100% ignore. You could customize your ship yourself, but you'll gain access to blueprints as you go, and you can just use the best version you have at any given point and probably get to where you're going just fine. Now, technically, we could have chosen either of the two worlds available to us, but to follow the path the game kind of wants you to follow, we are heading to the lower level world first, and it's a banger to kick things off. Welcome to Wonderland.
I'm here. I should be there. Oh, I'm late.
The intro to this world is suitably, get it, because pseudocards. The intro to this world is suitably off-putting. There's flowers and furniture stuck in 2D, and a talking rabbit scurrying all over. The door is alive, and it tells us to use the potion to make us smaller, and the second we do, we pull a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. This is our first introduction to two enemy types. The first of which is the flying red heartless that shoots out fireballs, which is fitting because they are also immune to the first type of magic that we unlocked. So if you happen to crack a fireball back their way, you learn about magic immunities. Fun fact, the original voice actress, despite being in her 60s, returned to reprise her role as Alice for this game. Alice is on trial, and it's our job to find evidence to clear her name. Now, as far as voice acting goes, I gotta say the Cheshire Cat loses a lot of his gravitas without any voice acting. There's a lot of secrets and hidden stuff in the forest here, but I won't spend 6 hours dissecting each and every one of them. If you're playing along, just make sure you look around a bit. If you get all 4 of the evidence boxes, you get Blizzard from the Cheshire Cat, but it might take you a try or two because Donald loves cock-blocking your platforming. The party members in general like to get in the way all the way through the game when you need them to stand aside. It's pretty amazing how laser focused on fucking you over they are sometimes. The trial goes alright. Alice gets proven innocent, but the queen doesn't give a shit and sends her to jail on the ceiling. You could fight the cards here and farm XP, but if you want to get this over with, just make sure to, you guessed it, air combo the shit out of that big old tower in the middle. Once the fight is over, the cell drops back down to the ground and Alice is nowhere to be seen, so we gotta go find her. This is our introduction to the bowling ball enemies that are impervious to damage from the front. They hit like a truck and they love to kill Donald. Also, if you try using the Blizzard spell that we just got on the fire enemies, they die instantly, so that's pretty cool. While some of the areas in this world look arguably like dog shit, for example, the boxy-ass skybox in the Queen's Court that's supposed to be a massive garden, there was some really clever use of assets with how you start interacting with everything on different planes. The room turns on its side, upside down, and all around in our chase of Alice, but alas, she has been yoinked by the Heartless, off to Never Never Land. All we get for our troubles is a fight with one of the lankiest and awkward bosses in the game. It's not bad by any means, but it is significantly janky. Tall enough that air combos don't always hit, and it moves just enough so that hopping on the table doesn't really remedy that. The general strategy for me here was to air combo when it would land, and then use the homing fireballs until I ran out of mana. I have this insanely clear memory of a family party when I was a kid. Coming back in from swimming and sitting on the living room carpet in front of a CRT TV eating pretzels out of a bowl and showing my cousin this fight. I don't know why it's so crystal clear, but it is, and it's a good memory. That room doesn't have the CRT TV or the carpet anymore, and it's not even our living room anymore. But I've still got that memory in my dome clear as day. Wonderland also sets up the basic formula that'll follow for the whole series. You get dropped into a Disney story in the middle of it, you help out the main characters, beat the bad guys, and close the door to that world.
What a racket. How's a doorknob to get any sleep?
Moving to the next world isn't as easy as it seems though, because like I said before, we don't get fast travel until later. So for now, we just have to move one world node at a time to get over to the 2-star world. Now comes the Colosseum. Hercules Town, baby. This one's kind of neat because from Square Enix's perspective, they had to make 3 rooms. There's the courtyard, the lobby, and the Colosseum itself. That's it. The whole thing is just enemy encounters too, so there's a lot of wiggle room to make those fights really fun. A remarkable Danny DeVito impressionist gives us some shit and has us smash barrels instead of letting us into the tournament.
What are you doing here? This here's the world-famous Coliseum, heroes only. And I got my hands full preparing for the games, so run along, pipsqueaks.
But luckily, Hades has our back, and we get to go through one hell of a gauntlet.
Well then, hey, get a load of this.
A pass?
It's all yours. Good luck, kid. I'm pulling for you, little shorty.
No one fight is particularly difficult on its own as long as you're using your mana correctly and making sure to tech block the chonky boys, but it is a bit of a struggle as your health and mana carry over through each of the rounds, so make sure you have all your equipment on and use those potions and elixirs. That's the kind of thing that as a kid would have whooped my ass because I wouldn't have thought to use the potions and elixirs because I was 7. Now, technically, you don't have to win against Cloud for the story to progress, but obviously for my pride, I had to make sure I did.
See ya!
Gotta keep going.
Cerberus and Herc show up having a tussle, and we get booted back to the lobby so we can save before taking a crack at the triple doggo ourselves.
One other rule I forgot. Accident happened.
Hey, Phil! Get them out of here!
Herc brings the unconscious Cloud away, and it's our turn. And if I'm being honest, I 100% died here my first go at it. I completely forgot to equip my potions to myself, Donald, and Goofy, so they died really quickly, and I apparently forgot I had a dodge roll too. Round 2 went a lot better. With the party fully kitted out, we kicked its ass. I was using Thunder here to try and hit all 3 of the heads, but I couldn't really tell if it was doing more damage or not. And when we weren't doing that, we were doing our classic strategy of air comboing for days. After the fight, we earn our junior hero license. We may or may not be back here later on for a certain fight.
I'm searching too.
For your light. Don't lose sight of it.
How about a rematch sometime? Fair and square, no dark powers involved.
I think I'll pass.
It's just one of those days where you don't want to wake up.
With Herc's world down, that leaves us only one way to go, and that, my friends, is into the jungle.
Whoa!
I remember that around the time that I was playing Kingdom Hearts was also the time where Disney was pumping out a ton of TV show versions of their movies. There was a Lilo and Stitch show, Hercules had one, and I watched a shit ton of the Tarzan show. So being able to go to these worlds that I was seeing on TV and fuck around was such a cool thing to have in a game for me as a kid. And I'm sure it was pretty neat to a lot of other kids playing it back then too. There's a reason Kingdom Hearts sold as well as it did on the PlayStation 2, and it sure as hell wasn't the cutting edge clown shoe technology. Donald and Sora got into a little scuffle that separated them as the ship tanked down into Tarzan land. So our introduction to the world is fighting a big old jaguar that has been taking its creatine.
I got separated from my friends. Have you seen them? Friends.
Friends.
Right, my friends.
Friends. Here.
Not sure I understand, but show me. Take me to Riku and Kairi.
Tarzan. Tarzan. Go.
And I'm Sora. Tarzan go, Sora go.
Welcome to Deep Jungle. I gotta be honest here, guys. I really dislike this world. One of the strong points of the first Kingdom Hearts title is that it is more than the sum of its parts. Under scrutiny, none of the worlds are particularly jaw-dropping, but they are all fairly serviceable and provide fun backdrops with different Disney flavors for Sora and company to fuck around in. Kingdom Hearts is at its best when you're just cruising along through the story, and Deep Jungle does its best to make that flow state as difficult as possible to keep up. There's a lot of problems I have with Deep Jungle, not the least of which is the fact that it feels as though they saved the majority of their creativity for after you beat the final boss. You know, the 5 seconds before you leave the world in the area you spend the least amount of time in. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Tarzan does some Tarzan things, and we get a sick little mini slide down to the camp with Jane and Clayton. Now, earlier I mentioned how sometimes the platforming could be a little bit odd in this game, and this is the world that comes to mind when I think of the platforming that annoyed the hell out of me. It's not actually all that bad coming back to it, but it certainly does itself no favors. If you happen to miss a jump in the upper jungle, it bops you back down and you have to do the climb of shame to make it back up. That being said, apart from the lack of color palette, the design here is actually pretty sick. And to me, this is one of the first worlds to really start feeling like it had some budget behind it, which makes sense because it's also a lot longer than the last two. This also follows the plot of Tarzan very loosely, with Clayton being Clayton and Donald being a badass to save our boy Turk, whose snarky voice acting is, again, sorely missed in this world, just like the Cheshire Cat. The music here is also pretty good. It's no Phil Collins like the original movie, but it does the trick. And let's be honest here, there's not that much that could live up to Phil Collins. We get introduced to the Monkey Heartless, which are a sweet iteration, but I'll be honest, I got lost as fuck here. I always get lost as fuck here. Call it me being dumb, but I say this is a pitfall of them going for scale on this world. The very, very green upper jungle and beige lower jungle textures just kind of blend together, even in the HD remake. And I 100% missed the little green vine you have to climb to progress the story. This suffers similarly to chasing Donald and Goofy around earlier in Traverse Town, where the specifics of where you have to go is a little murky sometimes, but if you get stuck, thankfully we are not 7 years old playing this on a CRT TV and getting annoyed. We can just Google it. Clayton gets yeeted and attacked, you hear some shots crack off, and it culminates in a big fight against the Jaguar from earlier, but he's a bit beefier now. Jane disappears, and we ascend the jungle one last time together, only for her to send us back down to square off with Clayton. There is a lot of running around in this world. Clayton isn't himself, and after whooping his ass real quick, he merges with a chameleon for what's actually a pretty cool boss fight. At first, the chameleon's invisible until you knock Clayton off, and then each of them operate independently, so there's some sweet managing of aggro that has to go on here, but as with most things in this game, that can be bypassed by air comboing the fuck out of them. After we beat Clayton down, he gets squashed. And we get Kerchak's permission to climb the waterfall. This is the thing I was talking about earlier that drives me nuts. It is the prettiest area in Deep Jungle by far, and it's wasted just being a weird little platforming test before the world is over.
Huh?
And here's one of those things I totally missed as a kid, but Tarzan just straight up spoils the entire game here.
Friends there. Sea friends.
Oh, now I've got it. Ah means heart. Friends in our hearts.
Heart.
Oh, so that's what it meant.
Friends. Same heart.
I won't lay it out here, but he just totally spoiled the whole game. And then Donald says no to getting giggity with Turk only because, in his words,
I think someone has a new admirer.
No. Dizzy would kill me.
I know that's a wild thing to drop and then fade to black on, but here we are. So we're on our way back to Traverse Town, but on the way, I guess I just decided to do these barrel challenges at the Coliseum again. Yeah, I don't really know what was going on here, but maybe it was actually an elaborate setup. Maybe I wanted to make up for the fact that I forgot to really talk about the barrels in the last Coliseum section, about how these are one of those things that as an adult, I kind of take for granted. But if I was still a kid, this is a pretty good way to gently nudge people towards learning certain mechanics. Throwing items isn't something that you do a ton in Kingdom Hearts, but you can do it here, and the barrels only get flung into the other barrels and break with a combo finisher. You can even use the finishers to direct the barrels to smash into other barrels. It's pretty simple, but it's a good example of teaching without tutorializing, and I don't hate it. By the way, I 100% did the barrels on accident, but fuck you, it's my video and I can rehash it if I want to. Now at this point, I'm already pretty done with gummy ship missions, but one short ride on the highway later, we're back at the home base in Traverse Town because we've got some unfinished business to take care of. Plus, we get to fuck around a bit more and explore this time around. Now that we're approaching the mid-game, it's worth mentioning that you may see me using special moves like Sonic here moving forward. These are just part of the things that we unlock as we level up. The RPG aspect of Kingdom Hearts is definitely one of those things that feels kind of like a weird holdover from Square's other games. There isn't really a ton of variety in how you get to the end game. Like there isn't a zero defense pure build like old school RuneScape or something. You kinda end up getting through the game the same way. And while you might utilize slightly different tools more frequently than someone else, the level up system and some of the ability and equipment functions just feel kinda out of place. I'm not sure I necessarily have a solution to replace how things work here, and I hate to be the person that points out a problem without an answer, but fuck it. The game's like 20 years old. It's not like I'm gonna rehash game design from that long ago in a super long video or something. Only a fucking idiot would do that, right? Okay, no more jokes. This isn't a funny video. This is a serious video about video games. Traverse Town Round 2. Let's go. First things first, we pay Merlin a visit, which holds a couple of different functions.
There's something about this musty place. It reminds me of the secret place back home, where we used to scribble on the walls. Remember?
Kyrie?
Sora? Psycho Mantis.
Merlin lets us train and mess about with magic without using MP to get really comfortable with things if you need it, but the Fairy Godmother lets you unlock different summons, and a special book hangs out here that we'll get back to in a little bit. Mostly because I 100% did things out of the order you're supposed to do here. It's been a while, okay? Sue me. I love Traverse Town aesthetically and for that nostalgia factor for me, but god damn, the order you have to do things here is so confusing sometimes, even now. Using a Trinity, we break down the gate behind the hotel's back alley that we were in earlier and have a little conversation with Leon and Aerith, who were just kind of hanging out in the sewer. Yeah, I don't have a good explanation for this one. Edgy character is edgy because they want to be edgy, I guess. While we're in Traverse Town, we can stop by the Dalmatian house real quick to pick up some of the rewards for the doggos we've found so far. But our main goal is on top of the Gizmo Tower, where we break another wall and ring the bell up top 3 times, which is signposted by the 3 bells on the pillars nearby, which opens up a boss fight once we're ready to get giggity. Again, this is supposed to be a game for kids, and it astonishes me how weird some of the main progression stuff is sometimes. It's like accessing DLC content in Dark Souls games level of obscure. Before we get into that boss fight though, we go back to Merlin's Tower to get the Simba summon from Fairy Godmother and to get into an optional world hidden inside of a book.
Think, 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 think.
As much as I adore it and how happy Winnie the Pooh makes me, I've never actually completed 100 Acre Wood in any playthrough of any of the games because the missions are locked behind pages that you find in chests while out in the universe. As much as I'd love to commit to doing it this run, it's just a ton of extra work, and I imagine a vast majority of kids that played the game never actually finished it either. Minor spoiler for Kingdom Hearts 2, but there's a flashback scene in the second game that shows the ending of most of the worlds from the first game, and I always felt a pang of guilt when they showed 100 Acre Wood because I didn't recognize the cutscene at all. If this video does well enough to justify taking a crack at KH2 in the same way, I'm sure I'll feel the same guilt all over again. It's unfortunate that it's locked behind collectibles too, because while I very quickly get sick of gummy ship missions, the mini games and Pooh being a silly little bear never gets old. Winnie the Pooh was one of my favorite things when I was really little, and while games very rarely affect my mood, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a little grin on my face during some of the Pooh storylines. He's just such a wholesome little shit, man, come on. Bouncing out of Merlin's Tower, we get jump scared by Riku in what ends up being a pretty important turning point for his role in the game. Up until now, Riku was definitely our friend, albeit kind of a dick sometimes, but there was no doubt that Riku and Sora were pals. For most of the game so far, Riku's just kind of been out and about, but he's alright, and that's a good thing. Sora wants Riku to travel with the crew, but while him and Donald are butting heads over it, Riku pulls a Batman and Sora just doesn't question it at all.
Catch.
Whoa. Okay, so you're coming with us, right? We've got this awesome rocket. Wait till you see it.
No, he can't come.
What?
Forget it.
Oh, come on. He's my friend.
I don't care.
Oh, he's gone.
Riku? Nice going. Oh well. At least he's okay. And who knows? Maybe we'll run into Kairi soon too.
You're a fucking idiot.
I swear to God, he's just such a wet blanket sometimes. Sora and company go back to the group's headquarters and have a chat with the Final Fantasy characters where some absolutely massively important lore for the second game gets dropped in text boxes instead of a full cutscene, which is still mind-boggling for me. But they didn't know if they'd get a sequel at all when they made the game, so planting the seeds of the sequel this way and using the budget elsewhere makes sense. In the funniest window peeping cutscene of all time, we see what Riku's really been up to while he sits in the cuck chair outside. Seriously, did no one see these guys? Like, they're right fucking there.
It's just as I told you. While you toiled away trying to find your dear friend, he quite simply replaced you with some new companions. Evidently, now he values them far more than he does you. You're better off without that wretched boy. Now think no more of him and come with me. I'll help you find what you're searching for.
Womp womp, Riku is getting gaslit. This does establish a future conflict though, because now Riku and Sora are very clearly on opposite sides of the same coin, whether they like it or not. They both have the goal of finding and saving Kyrie, so assuming they're both at least mildly capable and run into each other in pursuit of this goal, this rift Maleficent is creating will come up again later. While we're here, Sid also gives us a warp drive, which, if you don't know what that does, that means we can fucking teleport. Oh my god, I have to do the fucking gummy ship missions every time now. Sorry, I'm okay. I'm alright, I swear. Before we use that warp drive and get the fuck out of Dodge and into the meat and potatoes of the game, we gotta take care of that boss I mentioned earlier, which is a remixed rematch with the armor suit that was our first real boss of the game. If you remember, the first world where we actually sealed the keyhole at the end of it was Wonderland, not Traverse Town. So this reunion tour isn't just for funsies, we've got to clean up after ourselves. The boss fights differently and hits harder this time around, but using the cure spell we got a while ago makes these fights a lot less threatening, at least for now, because we can just hotkey a quick heal for ourselves when we get low. God knows Donald won't help. If you're playing along, make sure you do something that I frequently forget to do, which is update your equipment and abilities as you level up and find new stuff. It might just be incremental upgrades for now, but those little increases add up fast. With the armor suit down for the second time, we get to close off the keyhole, and that is the end of Traverse Town. Chip and Dale let us know that there's some fighting going on down at the Coliseum, which is something we're going to have to periodically check back in on. Same as before, these tournaments are endurance tests more than anything else because your health and MP do not replenish between rounds, and the assortment of what you can fight can range from basic bitch Heartless to remixes of bosses you've beaten. But no matter what, you better be in for the long haul because there is a lot of fights in each tournament. Winning this tournament is pretty important though, because it gives us access to a spell I didn't even touch when I was a kid because I was a dumbass. Gravity is fantastic because it does damage based on a percentage of the opponent's HP, meaning if you run into something with a silly amount of HP, you have your counter right here. This next world isn't my favorite mechanically, but I'd be doing a disservice to you, the viewer, if I didn't bring up the fact that Aladdin, Jafar, Jasmine, and Iago are voiced by their original voice actors. They got Gilbert fucking Gottfried for this, man. I mean, come on. I'll see you in a second though, because the title card has to roll. Welcome to Agrabah.
And the keyhole?
The Heartless are searching for it now. I'm certain we'll find it soon enough. So that just leaves...
Jafar! I've looked everywhere for Jasmine. She's disappeared like magic. Mr. Beast, I just ate some of your Mr. Beast burger, and let me tell you, your burger makes for a better fleshlight than food.
To everyone's disappointment, sadly, Robin Williams does not return as Genie, but I have to give credit where it's due. No one can replace Robin Williams, one of the all-time great comedians and actors, may he rest in power, but Dan Castellaneta does a pretty good job bringing the energy and gravitas that Genie needs. Remember earlier when we were in Wonderland? The Cheshire Cat felt lifeless because there was no voice acting, so while sometimes you may have to have the Wish.com version of a character's voice, get it? Wish.com? Genie? No? You guys are no fucking fun. But this is definitely a case of something being better than nothing, and in cases like this, that something can be pretty good. And that's where my praise for this world is gonna end, more or less. This is one of my least favorite worlds in the whole game, actually. The bazaar is cramped as hell, and the Kingdom Hearts 1 camera does it no favors. Especially if you've recently played something like Mario Odyssey, where despite its faults, the camera is 100% working in your favor all the time. This is one of the points that KH1 really shows its age. There's also a lot of weird jumping around where I could see what they were going for with the world design, but this is just really not a great game for platforming. Thankfully, Agrabah has a bit of a better showing in KH2, but we'll get there if we get there. For now, we are responsible for white knighting for Jasmine against Jafar. She runs away, and because we feel like it and the plot demands it, we go out to the desert, to the mouth of the Cave of Secrets, or Wonders, or something. It's been a little while since I've seen the movie, I'm sorry. Saving Aladdin gives us this cutscene with the Daniel Castellaneta rendition of Genie, and again, I gotta say, he does a pretty damn good job.
And this lamp. Legend has it that whoever holds the lamp can summon...
Please, kid, leave the intros to a professional. The one and only Genie of the Lamp. Rub-a-dub-dub the lamp and have your dearest wishes granted. Today's winner is Aladdin. Congratulations.
Aladdin Rush.
Patience, my fine feathered friend. Any 3 wishes. Oh, 1 wish, a 2 wish, a 3 wish. Then I make like a banana and steal it. Our lucky winner made his first wish.
And let me tell you what a doozy that wish was.
So he has 2 left. So, Master, what'll you have for wish number 2?
How about making me a fabulously wealthy prince?
Whoa! Money, royalty, fame! Why didn't I think that? Okay, you asked for it. 100 servants and 100 camels loaded with gold. Just say the word and I'll deliver it in 30 minutes or less, or your meal's free. Hey, I'll even throw in a cappuccino.
No thanks.
Okay.
I think I'll put that on hold until we reach Agrabah.
Back in Agrabah, Jasmine is just so fucking bad at hiding. Man, like, come on. So of course she gets caught, and in a turn of fate, just like the movies, Jafar yoinks Genie and runs away like the evil villain he is.
Jasmine!
I'm so sorry, Aladdin.
Genie, help Jasmine, please.
1 wish left. You're making this really easy, you know?
So sorry, boy. I'm afraid your second wish has been denied.
Huh?
I'm sorry, Al.
And now, I bid you all farewell. Attack!
Chasing after Jafar and Jasmine lands us in front of the mouth of the Cave of Wonders, which is frustrating not only because the camera freaks the fuck out the entire fight, but also because the janky-ass geometry of the head means the hitbox is just a pain in the ass. The intentional enemy design is when it wiggles to try and get you off of its head. The unintentional part is that Sora constantly slips off the top of the head anyways, even without that move, or in the middle of air comboing, he just gets forced on top of the head, again meaning no damage, and you have to hop off to even try to get a single hit in. It just feels very annoying through and through. And it's not very difficult in terms of beating the fight, but it sure does test my patience. Now, while I run some footage of me running in absolute circles in the Cave of Wonders, a place that looks great visually but is just a nightmare in terms of sequencing and finding out where to go or what to do next, I want to really quickly talk about the design of the Heartless. We saw this a little bit in Deep Jungle, but this is the first world we really get to see the strength in the character design of the Heartless. Because while yes, they may just be little black ant-looking things, their strength of design lies in the fact that they are like a blank slate that you can apply a theme onto. This is such a genius move by the artists, because in a game where you get to cherry pick Disney settings, having a consistent enemy type that you can apply each world and movie's thematic elements onto visually is such a cool idea. Also, once again, for posterity's sake, fuck this place. The cavern confuses me and hurts my walnut-sized brain. Agrabah really is simultaneously one of the nicest looking and most frustrating worlds to play at the same time. Confusing pathing on the story beats, especially in the cavern, annoying fight against the mouth of the Cave of Wonders, and then the fight here against Jafar where he just teleports away a bunch. And the annoying but visually spectacular final fight. I want you to watch this whole cutscene before I spoil it for you.
I'm really sorry about this.
So class, what do we think the final fight's main mechanic is? Did you guess that you don't actually fight the giant transformed evil genie version of Jafar at all? That you don't hit him at all? No, you slap the bird carrying his lamp that just flies away the whole fight. If you did guess that you just fucking fight Iago, then you guessed right. I mean, what the fuck? Yet again, it's visually stunning but mechanically so weak. This cutscene cutaway once you beat the fight is hilarious, by the way. Check this out. Aladdin is having a panic attack, and then with zero room, it just cuts right over to us closing the door to the world.
Jasmine? Jasmine!
It's practically a cutaway from The Office, but once that's over, it's time for the escape sequence on the magic carpet. Not to keep dumping on Agrabah, but like, this just sucks. I get why it exists, it makes sense thematically, it happens in the movie too, but god damn does it suck. It's not even hard, I only got hit a couple times, but the camera freaking out? Yeah, that isn't me. I left my hand off the camera thumbstick entirely here, so everything happening on screen is just natural. What a world. Aladdin has the same character growth here at the end of the Kingdom Hearts world as he does in the movie, letting Genie go free. And then we get another sneak peek at the layer of shitheads. While we're here, Maleficent pulls this line on Riku.
Why are you doing all this for me? What's the catch?
Catch? What's the catch? Silly boy. You're like a son to me. I only want you to be happy.
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, bitch, goddamn. Riku isn't having any of it, but apparently Maleficent has a lead on Kairi, and Riku seems to have struck up some kind of deal with her to save his homie, so for now, he's still stuck working for the Green Gremlin. Now, I hate to kill the pacing, but I actually have a fun fact for you guys. Most people probably leave the world by using the save point right here to just get out to the gummy ship and move on with their life. I mean, the credits rolled, the world is over, right? Well, if you say, fuck the police and hop down into the bazaar, you get to see 3 NPCs that I imagine most people probably don't even know existed. They're just kind of there. I don't even know what purpose they serve. I don't even know what purpose telling you this serves. This isn't even that fun of a fact, man. It's just a fact. Fuck this. Next chapter. Get me out of here.
You go.
Watching this cutscene today is one of those things that just kind of makes it all click a little better for me. Way back at the start of the video, I hypothesized that possibly Riku might be a little jealous of Sora and Kairi. But here we see that originally it was Sora and Riku, not Sora and Kairi, that found the secret place. And it was also Sora and Riku, not Sora and Kairi, that planned to leave the island one day. Let's put ourselves in Riku's giant fucking shoes here for a second. He finds this cool place with his friend and makes a promise to leave the island one day, and then this little shit shows up, steals his friend to draw on the walls of the cool place they found together, and kind of takes over a big chunk of the planning for leaving the island, which is something that was originally Riku and Sora's plan exclusively. So can you imagine how he would feel if he heard Kairi say this?
Sora, let's take the raft and go. Just the two of us. Huh? Oh!
And the thing is, Riku is actually kind of mature about this too, because he doesn't blame Kairi at all. He's been trying to save her all game. But now that Sora's kind of replaced Riku again with Donald and Goofy this time, Sora has a pattern of pushing Riku aside for new shiny friends. That's gotta suck to be on the receiving end of, and I completely get why those seeds of doubt Maleficent planted in his mind earlier would take hold now. I say all that, but it's kinda hard to have character revelations from the inside of a fucking whale.
Quick!
Welcome to Monstro. Monstro's guts are oddly gorgeous to look at. The walls are all these weird, abstract, twitching designs, and while it does look nice, it's also very samey. So much so that you can get lost pretty easily, especially when it's just numbered chambers with a nonsensical path to get from one to the next. And you actually have to get to chamber 4 to progress, not 7. Just to reiterate that, there are 7 numbered chambers, and you have to get to number 4. So as you think you're getting closer, well, you aren't. The rooms make little to no sense in relation to one another, and some of the doors you walk through have you fall immediately on the other side of them, meaning you get fucked. And then you have to figure out how to get back to where you were through the spaghetti hallways and just hope that you pick the right door this time. The level design here is just kind of rough, even if the idea is neat. As far as the plot goes, this is one of the first real confrontations Riku and Sora have. Pinocchio is kind of running all over the fucking place, and Riku seems to need him for something, but we keep butting heads all through Monstro.
But Sora, I thought you liked games. Or are you too cool to play them now that you have the Keyblade?
Riku? What are you doing here?
Just playing with Pinocchio.
You know what I mean. What about Kairi? Did you find her?
Maybe. Catch us, and maybe I'll tell you what I know.
Oh, come on!
Riku has gone full on sad boy hours. He's jealous of Sora's friends and how cool his Keyblade is, and Maleficent is being a cunt the whole while. I'm gonna let a couple cutscenes play out here.
He has all but deserted you for the Keyblade and his new companions, after all.
I don't care about him. I was just messing with him a little.
Oh, really? Of course you were.
What's the matter with you? What are you thinking? Don't you realize what you're doing?
I was about to ask you the same thing, Sora. You only seem interested in running around and showing off that Keyblade these days. Do you even want to save Kairi?
I do.
This all culminates with us and Riku teaming up briefly to save Pinocchio from Heartless. And I'm gonna yap a little while the whole boss fight plays out, and it's not gonna take long because this fight is a joke. It's probably the easiest boss in the whole game. If you just do what we've done all game, which is spam air combos, you actually tech most of the attacks it tries and just wail on it the whole time. If this world seems more confusing than the others so far as to the who, what, why, when, and how the fuck, that's because it is. We, as the players, are working off incomplete information, and for the sake of not ruining the intended drip feed of information, I've been doing my best for most of this video to keep things chronological, even if it's not the most conducive to being logical. This game can be kind of weird sometimes. A lot of the instances of weird do have purpose, and when the weird doesn't really have a purpose beyond setting the vibe, they usually write in a retconned explanation in a spin-off game. So when Pinocchio falls down a butthole and we chase Riku in there too, it might be weird, but just go with it for a little bit. Especially as we get deeper into this, a lot of things are going to be extremely difficult to explain without over-explaining, but in the next half hour, you're going to hear me talking about hearts way more than I ever wanted to. For example, right here where we finally learn why Riku needs Pinocchio. A puppet who has a heart might just be able to help someone who doesn't have a heart. Sora, being the mastermind detective that he is, figures out who Riku is talking about, and it's Kairi.
Give me back my son.
Sorry, old man. I have some unfinished business with this puppet.
He's no puppet. Pinocchio is my little boy.
He is unusual. Not many puppets have hearts. I'm not sure, but maybe he can help someone who's lost theirs.
Wait a minute. Are you talking about Kairi?
Professor Layton would be proud. Also, we get high jump here, thank Christ. We chase Riku, again, into a really cool looking final boss chamber, and this scene is more important than any of the yapping that I've done up to this point.
Hey! Let Pinocchio go, Riku!
A puppet that's lost its heart to the heartless. Maybe it holds the key to helping Kairi. How about it, Sora? Let's join forces to save her. We can do it together. What? You'd rather fight me? Over a puppet that has no heart?
Heart or no heart, at least he still has a conscience.
Conscience?
You might not hear it, but right now it's loud and clear. And it's telling me you're on the wrong side!
Then you leave me no choice.
Pinocchio! Pinocchio!
Jiminy, I'm not gonna make it. Oh, I guess I'm okay.
Huh?
With Sora and Riku now very clearly opposing one another, it's time for round 2 with the boss from earlier, and it definitely hits a bit harder now, but air combos haven't worn out their welcome just yet. I will give credit where it's due though. Using stomach acid as a poisonous hazard is pretty cool. With the fight over, somehow Riku managed to escape in all the chaos and has a little chat with Maleficent over Kairi's lifeless body.
So, Kairi's like a lifeless puppet now?
Precisely.
And her heart was...
Taken by the heartless, no doubt.
Tell me, what can I do?
There are 7 maidens of the purest heart. We call them the princesses of heart. Gather them together, and a door will open to the heart of all worlds. Within lies untold wisdom. There you will surely find a way to recover Kairi's heart. Now, I'll grant you a marvelous gift. The power to control the heartless.
Dude, that reeks. While we beat the shit out of Squall and Yuffie at the Coliseum and make our way to the worst world in the entire game, I want to talk about that last cutscene really quick. Not only is the conflict between Riku and Sora set in stone now, we also know why the princesses have been disappearing, or at least what Maleficent wants Riku to think is going on with them. First Alice, then Jasmine. Maleficent wants to gather these princesses to open a door to the heart of all worlds that contains unknown wisdom, which will have a way to save Kairi for real, on God, no cap, just trust me, bro. A lot of plot details that have been kind of obfuscated up to this point really get laid out in the open for you, the player, around this point of the game. And a lot of it just doesn't make any sense in the light of day. Pretty much everything that happens in this game requires all characters involved to be willfully ignorant of their surroundings. And while I do very much enjoy this game, I think there's a lot that is rightfully called out as dumb as hell. I am not going to be doing much of that beyond this next world for a couple reasons. First, I like this game despite its faults, and just because I'm reviewing it in the modern day doesn't mean that I have to shit on it incessantly by modern standards. And by that same token, I don't have to fillet it just because I have a lot of nostalgia for it. Somewhere in the middle is good. Also, ripping the game apart on a molecular level would make this already long video even longer, but most importantly, there's already a really great deconstruction of some of the weirdo logic and story that goes on in this game. There's some things I think he swings and misses on, but Dardigan's Everything Wrong with Kingdom Hearts video is really, really good, and it's not just dunking on the game to dunk on it. He also calls Riku a jealous ex-boyfriend at one point, and I heard it years ago when the video came out, but every time Riku does his "meh, pay attention to me," I just can't get it out of my head, especially after all the shit that just happened in Monstro.
Or are you too cool to play them now that you have the Keyblade?
Wildly spot on, and I'll link that video in the description if you're interested. The main reason I wanted to mention Dardigan's video within my own video was to give it a nod because I think it does a great job at nailing some of the frustrations with Kingdom Hearts people have. Whether you love these games or not, it's not hard to admit that they aren't perfect. And at least for me, by far, my biggest frustration with this game is Atlantica. I fucking hate Atlantica. I feel like anything I have to say about the story here doesn't really matter because this world doesn't really matter. I fucking hate it here. But let's talk about why. Remember Monstro? Remember that cutscene where Maleficent was like, "Gather all the princesses of heart"?
There are 7 maidens of the purest heart. We call them the princesses of heart. Gather them together, and a door will open to the heart of all worlds.
Well, Ariel, a Disney princess, isn't fucking one of them. Yup. The world immediately following that cutscene in Revelation doesn't apply to it at all. Riku and company don't show up at all because it would look fucking stupid having shirtless Riku with a dolphin tail be like, "Join the dark side, Sora." That would be dumb, and I would go so far as to say that you could remove Atlantica in its entirety and the game would be better off for it. But not only that, you wouldn't be able to tell. Like, 0 cutscenes or dialogue options would have to change. This world isn't referenced again at all. The funny part is that the story isn't even the worst thing here. The voice acting is good. The cutscenes are a bit silly, but decent. However, there are 2 cardinal sins committed in this world. The first part is that everything is fucking blue. I know it's the ocean, of course it's blue, but it's so confusing that the game had to signpost where you need to go with trident arrows on the wall. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, but that wasn't in the original game, just the final mix. There wasn't actually a lot that changed from the original game to the final mix, and I think that the fact that that is in the game as an addition says more than I ever could for what's wrong with this world. Even with that, though, it's easy to get lost and very annoying to navigate thanks to the shitty swimming controls. I can count the amount of good water levels in all of video gaming on one hand, and this sure as shit ain't one of them. I also have the music as quiet as possible in the background, so apologies for that, but 90% of the music here is just an instrumental of Under the Sea, and it both makes me want to die and will 100% get this copyright struck. I'm desperately hoping that this video will survive, but I have a strong feeling Square Enix and Disney are going to be eating the ad revenue on this one. Good time to mention, if you like the video so far, you can be a member for $5 a month, and they don't see a dime of that. I would say shameless plug, but we're over an hour in, and I feel like I've earned at least one plug by now. The second thing about this world, the second cardinal sin, and easily the most egregious and annoying part of Atlantica, is that you entirely lose your combos. Because of the verticality of swimming being here now, all of Sora's combos, his air combos, his extended ground combos, all of that shit is replaced with a 3-piece combo, and it's not the good kind from Popeyes. Not only does it make this monotonous as hell, but dodging now sucks, and if you haven't been using magic much, you better get used to it, because that's 90% of your arsenal now. It's either that or slap, slap, slap. When I say it out loud, it sounds about as shitty as it feels to play, but the fact that they took away all of your character's progression aside from your HP and MP bars up to this point for a single combo is so unfun. It feels like this is meant to be a level gate of sort, like the game is stat checking you and making sure you know how to use magic. if I wasn't making this video, I would be skipping this world because it is optional. You don't actually have to play Atlantica at all. So you, if you ever go to play this game, can skip it. For me though, I feel this video would be incomplete without it. So even though I hate it, here we are. It doesn't help that the boss fights here also suck donkey nuts. Who would have guessed when you put a chunky ass boss on the other side of a player that has been stripped of all of their fighting capabilities, it's not a very fun time. For the final boss, you just kind of sit behind Ursula slapping her fat neck and hoping she doesn't kill you. I'm not even going to spend any longer on Atlantica here because frankly, I think for both our sakes, it's best that we forget it even happened and get the fuck out of here. I find it wonderfully fitting that we go from easily my least favorite world in Kingdom Hearts to a contender for my favorite world of any Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, you heard me. Welcome to Halloween Town. Halloween Town feels to me like the most faithful to what the film was like so far, and it's also the first world I really care that they nailed because I loved the movie growing up. The thematic heartless enemy design here is great. The redesigns of Sora, Donald, and Goofy are fucking amazing. Like, look at that. The characters from the movie don't look like abominations. Well, I mean, they do look like abominations, but like in a good way. They're supposed to look like that. The texture work all over the place is just like the movie. So even though I'm playing a rezzed up version of the game like 20 years after it was made, it still looks good because graphical fidelity is temporary, but good design is forever. The main town, the graveyard, the tower, the furniture, the walls, every part of this place looks phenomenal. The story here is also doing something that I appreciate way more than ham-fisting Sora and company into a pre-established film plot, which is slotting them into an original rendition of what might happen if the characters really did get hot dropped into one of these movies. The story here, while it does borrow plot beats from the film and is far from Don Quixote, well, it's serviceable and it's fun, even if it still suffers from the classic Tetsuya Nomura goo goo gaga makes no fucking sense-itis. It shows you the whole cast and crew from the movie and brings you all over Halloween Town, which really let the designers go ham bringing it to life. Or bringing it to death? I don't know. While I have tried to point out when original voice actors come back to reprise their roles, this is the one instance where I actually don't want to look it up. Original voice actors or not, every single character sounds spot on. Jack's wibbly wobbly cadence is there.
Thank you. But their movement still needs work. It's not scary enough. I want to strike bone-chilling terror. I'm going to consult the doctor.
And just listen to this oogie boogie cackle.
That works for me. Ooh, when I get my hands on that, well, I've got no hands, but I'm still gonna nab that heart and control the heartless.
Holy shit. Now, just because I am really impressed with the presentation of this world doesn't mean that it's flawless, and it wouldn't be fair of me to complain about the camera in some worlds but not others. So, yet again, there's some fights where you just can't see shit, and it happens pretty often where you're fighting out of a tight corner. You learn to live in the chaos, definitely, but it still sucks nuts a bit when you just can't see anything. That being said, Jack is absolutely one of the most helpful companions in the game. He fights super well and is worth having around for the duration of the world. I won't go cutscene to cutscene with you here, but the general idea is that we need to create a heart. So in the early half of the world, we get sent out on a spooky treasure hunt to get the pieces to create an artificial heart to see if the heartless can be tamed and controlled to put on a crazy Halloween show. Even if the logic of it doesn't make total sense, it's silly and it fits in with the movie, so I'm not mad at it. In one of the most Looney Tunes-ass scenes known to man, Lock, Stock, and Cracker Barrel steal the heart from the professor on behalf of Oogie Boogie. These little shitheads just tripped a dude in a wheelchair. We chase them down and beat the fuck out of them in this tiny little room. And then we get to go do one of the most visually and mechanically enjoyable fights in the entire game. Look at this fucking arena.
Nobody disrespects me!
Fighting Oogie Boogie here is great. He rolls dice to see which of his wild-ass torture devices to send your way, and you have to hit the buttons on the platform to raise up to his level and whoop some ass. However, this fight is definitely not flawless. The spinning sides are pretty easy to dodge for the most part, especially if you lock onto Oogie up top and the camera sits still, but considering how much they hit for and how often the attack shows up, the AI partners have a complete lack of ability to dodge it and they just die, so you are more or less going solo in a lot of the fight. And to be perfectly honest, some of the fight just takes way too long to get going. You end up just kind of sitting around waiting for the chance to go up to Oogie's level while he dashes all over, and it can lead to a lot of downtime in an otherwise gorgeous and pretty engaging fight. Eventually, though, Oogie Boogie boogies his last Oogie. Psych. Yeah, there's a really shitty phase too. I wish they went for some kind of variation on that first arena fight with Oogie, or have me fight a transformed heartless version of him over on the iconic hill from the movie. But instead you get this. This fight isn't really even a fight. You just climb up Oogie's nutsack and pop pimples as you go up while he shoots at you. It's a super steep drop off in quality from the last fight, and while it does look kinda cool, and it's definitely the most verticality we've gotten from a level so far, taking advantage of the fact that we now have high jump, it is still most definitely lacking and hurts an otherwise pretty tightly paced world overall. Eventually though, you pop the last pimple and Oogie is down for good, which wraps up Halloween Town. It's not perfect for sure, but this is a great example of what Kingdom Hearts can do when it's firing on all cylinders. A nice dip into a foreign Disney universe that's visually stunning and thematically on point with some interesting combat here and there. Kingdom Hearts does not always work, but when it does...
New op pack in the air, this guess what? He'll still be alive.
On our way to the next world, we get stopped mid-flight and have this cutscene that just breaks like 200 rules all at once. First of all, the ship is flying in space, so it can ram us, but it doesn't actually ram us. And then we're just like on the ship walking around in the middle of the ocean. What happened to being in outer space? It's a logic nightmare that you shouldn't think too hard about. If the people making the game didn't give a shit, you probably shouldn't either. This is one of those just go with it moments that I mentioned earlier.
Important to you? More important than old friends? Instead of worrying about them, you should be asking about her.
Kairi!
That's right. While you were off goofing around, I finally found her.
Not so fast. No shenanigans aboard my vessel, boy.
Riku, why are you siding with the Heartless?
The Heartless obey me now, Sora. Now I have nothing to fear.
You're stupid! Sooner or later, they'll swallow your heart.
Not a chance. My heart's too strong.
Riku.
I've picked up a few other tricks as well. Like this, for instance. You can go see your friends now.
Down in the brig, we meet Peter Pan, who looks like a fucking middle-aged man.
Looking for a way out?
Who are you?
I'm the answer to your prayers. Okay then.
So, you know what you probably shouldn't do if your game has a camera that doesn't deal well with small rooms and pillars being in the middle of that room? You probably shouldn't make a world where every room is a tiny room with a bunch of furniture and pillars in the way. Good lord, the camera on Hook's ship is rough. Coming into replaying Neverland, I wondered why I had so little nostalgia for it. Like, I almost forgot it was in the game. And having now replayed it, that's because it is super forgettable. It feels like it was designed by a child. Like, it's so poorly made that they put a save point in 2 rooms directly adjacent to one another. I do understand this was for the purpose of kids being dumb and then whining when they died without saving, but Jesus Christ, do they think children don't have object permanence? Yeah, actually, that's kind of fair. I don't even have that sometimes. Of the 9 or so rooms in this world, though, including the clock at the end, 4 rooms have save points. Almost half of the world. Neverland is so forgettable because it isn't really Neverland. It's Hook's ship where Riku talks a lot and also a clock. But that doesn't really roll off the tongue like Neverland. There's not a lot to talk about here besides Kairi reacting a little bit to Sora being near her.
She hasn't budged an inch. Kairi? Kairi!
Riku just kind of dips. You fight a heartless clone of yourself that he made in a tiny room where it keeps going untargetable. Not a very fun fight. I actually died here once too because it cheap shot me.
Surprise, motherfucker!
If you want to beat this with no issues, if the clone isn't on your screen, then just dodge roll until it is and you'll do fine. While in Neverland, you gain the ability to fly, which controls exactly like Atlantica. Almost like they recycled the mechanic. Look, I get being efficient, but why did you have to redo one of the shittiest mechanics in the game, man? Come on. Fighting Hook is whatever. It's kind of funny because if you corner him to the side that the alligator's on, he'll bounce off and then shoot back up trying to get away from it. But yeah, this fight is super simple. You just kind of wail on him, and if he starts doing his angry spins, just stay out of the way until it's over. Following the Hook fight, you have to hit the clock hand on Big Ben that isn't at midnight 3 times in order to line it up, and then the keyhole for the world unlocks. I will say, Donald laughing at Tink being cucked in real time here is kind of funny.
Oh boy, she's getting steamed again. Do me a favor? Look after her for me, will ya?
What?
Fucking same, Sora. Same. When Riku teleported away earlier, apparently it was a bit more taxing on him than he might have shown to us. So Maleficent chides him and then gives him even more power with a warning under her breath about how relying on it too much would make him lose his heart. While Riku stews in the guacamole gamer farts, though, it's time for us to head back to Traverse Town into the final chapter and on towards the end of the game.
Pick up, you gone and stuck in.
Before we get into the end game, it's worth making one final stop at the Colosseum to finish out the Hercules Cup, which actually, this spinning attack here that you can't really tech block reminded me that the end game for Kingdom Hearts can kinda suck nuts. So it's time to hotkey Arrow, which is a defensive spell, and finally equip block again. There's a lot more tough enemies around the corner, and I'm still a bit underleveled because I hate grinding in RPGs that aren't Pokemon, which brings me to an interesting point. Earlier in the video, I mentioned how the RPG system feels kind of ham-fisted into the game, like it's just weird that you have actual levels and experience to deal with for killing X amount of Heartless. The gear itself is more or less fine, but the levels and abilities unlocked behind level gates are kind of wonky. So I did come up with a solution, sorta. Seeing as how this game is coming to Steam now, I was just curious what mods were out there that would make people want to buy this on PC. And while looking through those mods, I saw a mod that very simply gives you some of the abilities that you unlock in game at boss checkpoints rather than through leveling. It was important abilities like scan and guard and a few others. And that mod's existence got me thinking. Wouldn't the whole game just be way better if they scaled Sora's quote-unquote level to each world? I guess I get that you could run through a lot of the encounters with normal Heartless that way, but I'm still doing that sometimes, even though I'm missing out on XP because of it. It would also make balancing a lot easier because you would know exactly where each player was when they reached a boss, which would allow for way more control over the player's experience during some fight encounters. Is it a good idea? I don't know. But for now, it's the best I've got.
Nothing to it. We're the champs!
With Herc down, we head back to Traverse Town to give Sid the navigation gummy to lead us to the next world, or some shit. Even now, I don't really understand why it works that way. I feel like they could have written a better excuse to bring us back to Traverse Town. You know, Chip and Dale come on the radio like, "Ksh, Sid just found a new world on a scanner, you guys better get back here quick." It's what they end up doing a lot in Kingdom Hearts 2, but as with all things, you have to remember that this was their first go of things, and I know I said I wouldn't go full on CinemaSins, so I won't be hyper-critical, just a little critical. There is a lot of super weird sequencing and writing choices here at the end of the game, and this video wouldn't feel complete to me if I didn't at least bring them up. For example, this cutscene with Kairi's memory. Now, at the end of the game, we'll know why Sora saw this memory that's, you know, from Kairi's brain. And I can actually surmise what they're trying to show here, but this cutscene is so fucking weird without the context we get later. That kind of sums up all of Kingdom Hearts, honestly. Kingdom Hearts. This is kind of weird without context, and it's still pretty weird even with context. I'll come back to this eventually because it does relate to stuff that happens later, but for now, we're off to the world the Navigummi led us to. Welcome to Hollow Bastion. The first time you see this place in the original game was right here and now, not during that weird cutscene that played earlier where Riku ends up here and looks around. That was added in the final mix, and I think it shouldn't be there, honestly, because it adds nothing and kind of spoils your first look at Hollow Bastion. That sucks, because this place looks fucking sweet. Water traveling the wrong direction, weird rock formations floating all over, and a giant ominous castle in the distance. A lot of the structure of this place doesn't make sense, but it looks fantastic.
Take her if you can. So, you finally made it. About time. I've been waiting for you. We've always been rivals, haven't we? You've always pushed me, as I've always pushed you.
Riku.
But it all ends here. There can't be two Keyblade Masters.
I think the existence of this line right here is more than enough proof to refute the argument that Tetsuya Nomura planned it all from the start. I think most of the spin-off games also prove that point, you know, by existing, because eventually it got to the point that I swear to God, Nomura just started spouting shit off and was like, fuck it, just send it. We'll retcon anything I fuck up in a spin-off game somehow. That retconning is what makes these games so goddamn confusing as they go on, because rather than explain the thing as you experience it, Nomura wants you to play a spin-off that explains it. I love these games, but it's such a problem, and it's one of the reasons Kingdom Hearts as a franchise is so daunting for anyone new to it. You can't just play Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3. There's required reading to keep moving through the games, and that's a pain in the ass. For now, just know that that line isn't exactly true, and we'll move on.
Your part's over now. Here, go play hero with this.
Goofy, let's go. We have to remember our mission.
Oh, well, I know the king told us to follow the key and all, but...
Slower, slowly.
Donald and Goofy fucked off with Riku to follow the key and their king's orders, so we're left with a shitty wooden sword and Beast, who jumps around and gets in your way a lot, but also one-shots a lot of the Heartless, so it evens out. Now I'm going to let a cutscene play here that technically plays in a different sequence, but explaining it now instead of in 20 minutes is going to allow me to finally stop saying we'll get to that. So here it is.
Oh, purest of hearts, reveal to me the keyhole!
Did you catch it? Earlier, Maleficent said there was 7 princesses of heart, and on those walls, I only counted 6. Unless Kairi is a princess, whoa! Maleficent is trying to open that door to the Dark Realm, or the Realm of Hearts, or whatever you want to call it, but it requires a Keyblade and the 7 princesses of heart. And in a few minutes, she'll have all that and more. That scene earlier showing Kairi's memories with the grandma, well, that library they were in is actually right here in the castle of Hollow Bastion. Kairi is the princess of this world, and when she showed up at the Destiny Islands as a kid, that was her somehow getting spat out of this place as it got swallowed up. God, it feels so good not having to pussyfoot around that stuff anymore. Back in real time, we go through the underground of the castle with Beast to unlock the front door in a super convoluted way, and as we enter, well...
They're close. I can feel it. Are you ready for them? No.
Quit while you can.
No, not without Kairi.
The darkness will destroy you.
You're wrong, Riku. The darkness may destroy my body, but it can't touch my heart. My heart will stay with my friends. It'll never die.
Really? Well, we'll just see about that.
Ah!
Sora ain't gonna go anywhere.
You'd betray your king?
Not on your life. But I'm not gonna betray Sora either, cause he's become one of my best buddies after all we've been through together. See you later, Donald. Could you tell the king I'm really sorry?
Hold on, Goofy. We'll tell him together. Well, you know, I'm the one in restaurant.
I guess you're stuck with us, Sora.
Thanks a lot, Donald. Goofy.
How will you fight without a weapon?
I know now I don't need the Keyblade. I've got a better weapon. My heart.
Listen, there's some cheesy lines here, but Sorta, Dipshit, and Goober are buddies. And it really does feel like they've bonded on their journey together at this point. So it's nice to see that realized. If you didn't hear the 7,000 other times Sora has said it in the past 2 hours, friends are his strength, and that holds true for the whole series. Sora is at his best as a character when he's got his pals around him.
Forget me, then our hearts will be one. I don't need a weapon. My friends are my power.
With Riku in his bad boy outfit and the Keyblade back in our hands, welcome to Dark Riku 1, or as I like to call it, Arcanum of Steamworks and Magic Obscura, because by spamming our new combo move, Arcanum, we can gobble up Riku's entire health bar here.
So, your heart won this battle.
Even though we've got the whole crew back together and we have Donald, Goofy, and Beast, we're going to leave Beast out for a moment. It's important because to unlock the door to get further into the level, we have to do a few trinities that require Donald and Goofy. I really wish you could do them by just having any 3 party members because it discourages trying out the new party members in each world, but it is what it is. I remembered to do it here, but later on, that's going to come back to bite me in the butt. With all 4 of the emblem pieces, we can go through the door and see Riku just kind of, well, I'll let you watch and then we'll chat.
Why? It was mine.
Know this. The heart that is strong and true shall win the Keyblade.
What? You're saying my heart's weaker than his?
For that instant it was. However, you can become stronger. You showed no fear in stepping through the door to darkness. It held no terror for you. Plunge deeper into the darkness, and your heart will grow even stronger.
What should I do?
It's really quite simple. Open yourself to the darkness. That is all. Let your heart, your being, become darkness itself.
Yeah, I mean, what the fuck, right? Random dude in a hallway shows up and he's like, let me inside of you. And Riku's just down with it. He's out of options and losing after fully committing to the darkness bit, so he's desperate. I get that, but it's still super weird. And also, you may remember our hooded friend from the very start of the game. It's Mr. Whisper Cryptic Shit and Leave, and he hasn't changed much since we last saw him. There's some more meandering around the castle, turning on and off these weird elevators, but getting to the inner part of the castle took me a lot less time than I remember it taking as a kid. Maybe I just sucked? That's probably it. Actual skill issue. Everything is held up in the process of getting the door to the Realm of Hearts open, and even though Possessed Riku has a Keyblade now, Kairi is still missing her heart, so the door isn't budging until that gets rectified. Maleficent comes out into the main hallway to stop us, and we finally get to square off with this bitch. She's actually kind of a neat fight, with some interesting ways to play around her bullshit. Her platform she flies away on can be brought down to your level by hitting it, yeah, but a single instance of gravity aimed at the platform does it too. And also, if you hear her talking about meteors, fucking run. This attack will eat your health bar with 0 fucks given. Just because she's down, though, doesn't mean she's out, so following her into this portal, it's time for round 2. That wasn't even her final form. No, really, it wasn't her final form. This is. She's a fucking dragon now. So full disclosure, this is what a lot of people think is the hardest boss fight in the game. And in this version of the game, I'm inclined to agree. She's a giant motherfucker and wobbles her head all over. Her swipe attacks are rough. The tail attack is rough. The fireballs that chase you basically mean it's time to run for 30 seconds. And while she is weak to gravity, us, the players, are weak to shitty camera angles. So if you're standing in front of her when she breathes fire, well, get fucked. You don't get to see anymore. When I was a kid, this fight and the next fight gave me so much trouble. I remember it beat my ass so bad that I hid under the roots on the outside of the fight where she couldn't hit me and the fireballs couldn't get to me, so I could wait for Donald and Goofy to revive and try to hit her some more. She's a mean bitch, but her favorite technique of gaslighting only works if you have a brain to be gaslit. And thankfully, Sora, Dipshit, and Goofer had their brains repoed a couple hours ago, so we're safe.
How ironic. She was just another puppet after all.
What?
The Heartless were using Maleficent from the beginning. She failed to notice the darkness in her heart eating away at her. A fitting end for such a fool.
So it's time for me to make a confession. I never beat this fight as a kid. I didn't actually beat it until I was a teenager playing the final mix on my PS3 years later. One thing I have neglected to mention up to this point in the video is the fact that Final Mix added a function that wasn't in the original game that absolutely makes this version of the game so much better. You see, in the original game, you could not skip cutscenes. That cutscene before we fought Maleficent, the minute and a half you had to watch there, yeah, every time you die, you get to watch that whole thing through. Have fun.
You need some help. Yes, a keyway, but unlike yours, this keyway holds the power to unlock people's hearts. Allow me to demonstrate. Now, open your heart, surrender to the darkness, become darkness itself.
It's our darkness, the true darkness.
That wasn't even the worst one, though. I beat that fight. This second fight against the possessed Riku beat my ass so hard that I legitimately gave up. This whole time I've been talking, that's time you have to wait before you even get to give the fight another shot after dying.
Princess of Heart still sleeps.
The princess? Kairi's a princess?
Yes. And without her power, the keyhole will remain incomplete. It is time she awakened.
Whoever you are, let Riku go. Give him back his heart.
But first, you must give the princess back her heart.
What's...
Don't you see yet? The princess's heart is responding. It has been there all along. Kairi's heart rests within you.
Kairi's inside me?
I know all that there is to know.
Tell me, who are you?
It is I, Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness. So, I shall release you now, Princess.
Complete the keyhole with your power. Open the door. Lead me into everlasting darkness.
Sora! Forget it. There's no way you're taking Harry's heart.
I swear to God that this fight is easier in Final Mix than it was on the original PS2 version. I definitely got skill gapped, but I'm telling you, this shit was evil. It's everything that the first Riku fight way back on Destiny Islands does, ramped up to 11. He has the same swinging motion, he kicks you out of your finisher, he taunts you, he dodges, then jumps in at you. It's the same exact thing as that first fight all those hours ago, but so much more deadly. I actually really like this fight. It's challenging. It feels like a real one-on-one duel, not a stat check. I think the thing that they changed in Final Mix over the original game, if I had to guess, is that there are 2 attacks that you can just jump and glide over now that I don't remember being an option in the original game. I could be wrong. This fight might be the exact same. I could have just sucked, but man, it feels rewarding whooping his ass now either way. For a second, just put yourself in child Jake's shoes and imagine dying to a boss that you didn't do very much damage to, and then having to sit through the entire cutscene for like 3 minutes every single time. I gotta be honest with you, I completely understand why the child version of myself gave up. That shit is torture. It wasn't even the difficulty of the fight that made me stop. It was the endurance that I had to have and didn't have to wait out every single time I died. Obviously, I still loved the game, and I even remember starting the game over without having beaten this fight on a new save file because I liked it so much. But I never saw the end of the game that we're about to experience together until I was older. Funny, isn't it? One of my favorite games at the time, and I didn't even see the credits for myself until years later. So it goes. What Riku, well, Ansem.
It is I, Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness.
That's not really Ansem, but that doesn't come up until Kingdom Hearts 2, so for now, just ignore me. Ansem / Riku / whoever the fuck revealed to us during that preamble cutscene that Kairi's heart has been hiding inside Sora this entire time. Remember way back at the start when her opacity got turned down on Destiny Islands? Yeah, that's where that happened. That's why she periodically talked to us, that's why her finger twitched when we got near her in Neverland, and that's why we could see her memories. Sora gets a dumb idea here and sacrifices himself without a second thought, using the Keyblade that Possessed Riku said unlocked hearts to unlock his own heart and let Kairi's heart out in the process. While the overall plot at this point is absurd and insane, that character decision makes total sense. It's all he could talk about from the very start of the game. Riku and Kairi. Is it really surprising that he would willingly do this? Not to me. Sora doesn't really experience any character growth here, and you can look at that a couple ways. Yes, it is probably kind of lame that he's just the same throughout, but therein lies the strength of Sora as a character. He is unchanging and, more importantly, unwavering. He's said it a bunch in the last few hours. His friends are his strength. And so it stands to reason that our hero is a hero by being himself and having absolute faith in his friends. It's not that he didn't necessarily have character growth, and he didn't really, but more so that when the chips are down, his attitude and his personality win out over, for lack of a better term, they win out over the darkness. And I like that message.
Sora? Are you really? No, he can't be. I won't let him go!
So, you have awakened at last, Princess.
The keyhole is now complete. You have served your purpose, but now it's over.
Do you think we can stop him all by ourselves?
I don't know.
Impossible.
No! You won't use me for this!
Riku!
You've gotta run! The Heartless are coming!
Let's just get out of here!
And yes, you have been watching me run around as a heartless. Cutscene alert.
Sora? Is that you? This time I'll protect you.
I don't really know what exactly happened there to save Sora, to be honest with you. The power of love? Kairi gave Sora his heart back? No clue. But either way, Sora is back and Kairi is there with him. It only took him the entire game, but he did it, that son of a bitch. The castle is being overrun by Heartless at this point, so the gang runs back to Traverse Town, where it's decided that Sora needs to go back and seal the keyhole that Maleficent tried opening up. The one they were just right next to. And when we go back in a little bit, the castle isn't really in danger at all. Narratively, this is definitely a bit weird, bumping us all way back to Traverse Town for a pit stop, but it does serve as a kind of checkpoint. Do what you have to now. Visit the other worlds, because this is it. After this, there is only the end of the game and the end credits. And I swear to God, I didn't mod this. I didn't mean for this to happen. This is legitimately the only bug that I've encountered all game in this PC port. So if you're watching this as the Steam port is going to come out, assuming nothing changes from the Epic to Steam version with the game itself, it runs great, honestly. And this being the only bug is fine because it's fucking hilarious. Look at this shit. This is supposed to be a serious scene, a final send-off before the final battle. It's all very climactic. Calm before the storm. And Sora is just jittering all over the goddamn screen. I love it.
Remember? I was lost in the darkness. I couldn't find my way. As I stumbled through the dark, I started forgetting things. My friends, who I was.
I wish more cutscenes did this shit for me because it's hysterical. Kairi gives us the charm she was working on at the start of the game. Her lucky charm. And now, it's time for the end. The end of Kingdom Hearts is an absolute gauntlet. It's a boss rush with cutscenes and hard-as-balls arena fights sprinkled in between. The easiest part is right at the start, back to the top of Hollow Bastion and in to fight this big bad motherfucker. Get used to seeing him because we're going to see him about 5 more times before the game is over. They reused the shit out of this design, and it has the same problem that the Cave of Wonders fight did back in Agrabah, which is that you can only damage it if you are on top of it, and hitting it requires a really weird angle where you fall off all the time. It's just not particularly fun, even if it looks cool.
Now let's go and seal that big keyhole.
From there, we have a date with a man named Ansem, and he's got a hold of our banking information. There is one final ride from Hollow Bastion to the very end of the game, and fittingly, it's at the end of the world. What follows is that gauntlet I was talking about. Relentless fight after fight against lots of Heartless and mini-bosses, including 2 new versions of Heartless. This demon swordsman and these fucking lantern things. We work our way down and through an increasingly deformed and warped landscape. There's debris, bones, trees, all kinds of mean and nasty things are sticking out of the walls, and abstract colors and shapes abound. On our way down to chase Ansem into the end of the world, we square off with the Chernabog from old Disney films. If you've seen Fantasia, you've seen this fucker, and it's kinda a repeat of the Ursula fight from Atlantica. It looks great, and it's not nearly as annoying now because we have Arrow, which gives us bonus defense and lets us kinda tank our way through some of his bullshit. But he is very much a boss you just kinda sit behind the head of and hope he doesn't look your way. Then there's this chamber. This is the hardest fight in the game, and it isn't even a fucking boss. Wave after wave after wave, combining groups of the most annoying Heartless. And the funny part, it starts off with a rematch against that woolly mammoth looking thing. I died here more than once, mostly because there's just a lot of shit flying around on screen, and it can be hard to tell when it's something that's going to hit you or just particle effects from the billions of other things going on in the room. These flying guys are bastards in big groups, so naturally they spawn in like 5 of them at once. And then they do it again. This is genuinely difficult. It's also a friendly reminder that I am mildly underleveled for the end of the game. With perseverance, we manage it, getting ourselves to the final save point and the end of the world. It's Destiny Islands again. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and Destiny Islands to Destiny Islands, I guess.
Is this my island?
This is Ansem. Now, again, it's not really Ansem, but as far as we know, it's Ansem, and he is a cunt and a half to fight. This is the point in the game that I really feel the need to criticize from the perspective of an adult, because these next few fights are way too hard for kids on the normal difficulty. Dark Riku, pre the nerf I think happened that I don't actually know happened, was enough to make me quit as a kid, and I can 1000% see kids losing to some of these bosses that are coming up and just calling it quits. I kept saying gauntlet before because that's really what it is starting off on this beach. One of the things I rather dislike about this first fight with Ansem is that him being an inch off the ground all the time means that ground combos are a no-go. And you can only do your 3-piece air combo on him or waste 3 of your mana bars to use your new air combo finisher. It just sucks when they take away options from you. That's one of the reasons I hated the swimming and flying bosses so much. I'm sure they won't reuse that mechanic again here at the end of the game. More than once. Ansem has a couple attacks here that are just kind of lame swipes in front of him. Occasionally he sends his Heartless Guardian out in front of him to protect against all frontal attacks, and when the Guardian's on his back, you can't hit him from the back either. This was a genuine reminder that I'm woefully underleveled for this fight, and that my damage is kinda shit, what with picking the shield at the start. Who'd have thunk that that would come back to bite me in the ass? I mean, look how little each of my hits does to this fucker. Now when you hear this, do not submit. Run. Just fucking dodge roll away, because if he hits you with that attack, you get to spend the next 45 seconds in Pound Town with the Guardian eating your ass and Ansem menacingly floating at you with a laser ball that does half your health bar. You can get a perfect cycle on it where you take no damage by using the command freeze that shows up in your command bar, but you have to be far enough away that Ansem's light ball doesn't hit you while the Guardian is holding you down. It requires some genuinely decent spacing to avoid, and are you starting to see why I think this is a bit much for kids? I also had to swap Keyblades off of Divine Rose to Oblivion, which you get from a chest in the room that you fought Dark Riku in back in Hollow Bastion. This swap was solely for the reach. Ansem 2C slides his way away from you so much that the extra reach is actually very necessary, and Divine Rose is too stubby of a Keyblade. So even though I lose 1 damage and an MP bar, it's still worth doing. This honestly took me a good few tries because I was so underleveled and did so little damage. And he really is just a bit difficult to fight. I should say too that this isn't coming from someone that can't beat difficult games. I am a FromSoft veteran at this point, and I'm very familiar with games that have combat systems similar to this one's, and the main issue here is a lot of my own doing because I was lazy leveling up before, but I cannot stress enough. This shit is just a lot for a kid, and it gets worse. After defeating Ansem on the beach, he blows the fucking roof off the place, quite literally. Now it's time for a two-phase standoff with him. Thankfully, this does act as a checkpoint, even if it isn't a hard save point. So if you die and hit continue, it'll spawn you here after having beaten him the first time on the beach. This is a pain in the ass fight because for starters, Donald and Goofy get stuck outside, so you are solo bolo, brother man. Phase 1 is a rematch with that very first boss you fought on Destiny Islands at the start of the game, and he doesn't really have any new moves or anything. He just has a little more health and does a little more damage. This is not difficult at all, actually. But it does act as a gatekeep for the real fight here, which is Ansem's hissy fit phase. Every time you die to this next fight, you have to beat this giant Heartless first for another attempt. Welcome to Ansem 2, otherwise known as the shit that probably made you throw a controller as a kid. Like I said earlier, the Dark Riku fight made me quit, so I can imagine this shit driving kids insane. He has a few new attacks now that all require very specific solutions. So his submit attack in the 2 minutes of him and his guardian fisting you is still there, as well as all his other attacks. And by the way, I'll have worked into the footage by now what a perfect cycle looks like for avoiding damage. Submit! If you happen to get caught by his submit attack. It's not the hardest thing in the world if you keep locking onto Ansem and don't lose track of him, but it can be a bitch to handle sometimes, especially if you're all out of items and mana. New to his arsenal is Take This, where he does 4 charges and then a delayed charge to make you mistime your dodge and get hit. There's some minor iframes on the dodge roll, but you have to be pretty spot on to avoid the charges. He also has this new wave attack he shoots out at you, which you can just dodge roll around. The other new attack is one that is annoying to me, not because of how hard it is to dodge. All you have to do is just dodge roll in a circle until he's done. But I hate it for the same reason I hate a lot of fights in a lot of games. Fucking invincibility phases. It's not like he does it once either. He can do it as many times as he wants to. And it's like 30 seconds of rolling in a circle and waiting. For these next few fights, by the way, I want to talk really quick about some very important spell upgrades. The first is the maximum level cure, which you get from Aerith by talking to her in the Hollow Bastion library 3 times. That one is massive, and the second is Aurora, which is the upgraded version of Arrow. I haven't been using Arrow much in this video because for most of the game you don't really need it. But Arrow cuts damage dealt to you by a ton, and the upgraded version is apparently kind of necessary for these next fights by way of allowing you to kind of tank through some attacks that I will show you. I did pick up the Cure upgrade, but I forgot to grab the Arrow upgrade because I had Peter Pan in the party in Neverland. And you get it from a Trinity, which you can't do unless you have Donald and Goofy in your party. And again, I understand they couldn't do the cool Trinity animations over for every character, but it sucks that you can miss out on stuff, even important stuff like that upgrade, unless you go back for it with them in your party just because you dared to try out a new party member. Anyways, eventually, Ansem falls. I gotta be honest, I don't know what the fuck to call this thing. Is this the Heartless that showed up when the Titanic sank? I mean, Jesus. Ansem has melded with this giant boat thing, and he's just a massive cunt here. This is where apparently having the Arrow upgrade helps a ton because I guess it lets you tank the lasers that spawn. If you're looking at this and wondering when you get to play, that's the neat part. You don't. This is also where I became extraordinarily happy that I segment my recordings for this shit, because I saved the Ansem 2 fight, and then when I had this boss down to like half of his final health bar, I fucking blue screened. That isn't a problem with the game, that's a problem with my GPU dying that the community that follow me over on Twitch are very familiar with. So while I did lose the fight, I didn't lose the footage from the rest of the endgame. And when I got back into the game, I fucking beat Ansem 1 and 2 over again, and when I got here, I just... Look, this fight sucks. The lasers, the lack of dodging or blocking because you're flying and they recycled the goddamn mechanic from Atlantica again. The fact that through my own dumb brain I didn't get the arrow upgrade. So, yeah, I cheated. I cheated once, alright? It was like 3 a.m. and I didn't want to keep doing the fight over, so I apologize to the Academy and my family. I am a fake gamer for not redoing the fight for authenticity. The rest I did legit though, because the rest of the fights in the game are like a victory lap. You work your way through the parts of the ship, beating it down one by one and saving both Donald and Goofy for a rematch with Big Bad Ansem. And in keeping with the theme of the game, this fight is a billion times easier having your friends there. Ansem falls. His ship falls, and while he's talking shit, the door to Kingdom Hearts, the title... the abstract concept, the very thing Ansem has been seeking. That door opens up and fries him. It wasn't darkness like he thought, but light.
Supreme darkness.
You're wrong. I know now, without a doubt. Kingdom Hearts is light.
But why?
To bring back order to all of the worlds, to reset everything and save all those people swallowed up by the Heartless, they have to close the door. Riku is here after being in limbo in the darkness on the other side of the door since we knocked his ass out of Ansem, and shirtless Mickey even shows up.
Majesty! Now, Sora, let's close this door for good.
Together with Sora and Mickey's keys on each side of the door, they lock it and seal away Kingdom Hearts, but they seal away Mickey and Riku along with the door.
Take care of her.
what you said before? I'm always with you too. I'll come back to you. I promise. I know you will.
And I've got to cut the music. I know, I'm sorry. I have been copyright struck by that song multiple times on multiple platforms before, so no matter how much I adore the track, I can only let you hear those first few notes. That promise right at the end, and Kairi completing the Paopu fruit drawing here, tying them together no matter what. Well, that's going to be real important to the sequel, but man, Kingdom Hearts. What a ride. It's got loads of ups and downs both in the quality of the story and the gameplay, but the one thing you can never take away from the team behind these games is that they really throw the budget at the finales. I spoke more about the boss mechanics than the visuals, but they really went balls to the wall at the end with the backgrounds and enemy design on all versions of Ansem. It's just fantastic, even if fighting them isn't so fun all the time. My feelings on the boss fights aside, they really went for it with the ending here. And not a ton of what happens at the end makes total sense, but I will hand it to Tetsuya Nomura. Regardless of how much he had planned for a sequel, he most definitely laid the groundwork for it here. I mean, it's practically a cliffhanger ending. Kairi sees all of the worlds being returned to their place in the universe as a meteor shower. The opposite of the meteor shower that we were told she arrived at Destiny Islands with earlier in the game as her home disappeared. There's a lot in limbo, and I mean that literally. Riku and Mickey got stuck on the other side of the door, and God knows what's going on there. Sora, Donald, and Goofy are just kind of wandering in a field. So I guess the question still remains for me. All these years later, how does Kingdom Hearts hold up? I mean, it's fine. I know that's such a lukewarm conclusion to come to after 2 hours. But after replaying it and really interfacing with every bit of the game, I don't know. Having taken a step back from what I remember and approaching it fresh, what I've found is that Kingdom Hearts is one of those games that absolutely deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame for both what it tried and the legacy that it's left on gaming. I mean, when the Final Fantasy VII Remake first debuted a while back, I remember thinking, hey, that combat system started with Kingdom Hearts. There is an untold amount of lasting influence that all started here with the keys and the crowns and all the bullshit in between. However, some historic pieces belong in the museum. And while this isn't nearly as difficult to go back to as some of the older games I've gone back and played, if the original Doom is at the very top of the list and E.T. for the Atari 2600 is at the very bottom of a landfill, then I think in terms of player experience, Kingdom Hearts lands itself well below the median line for me. That doesn't stop me liking the game, not at all. But if someone with no context at all picked up the Final Mix collection and tried playing this, I think there's stuff to enjoy here for sure, but there's also a lot of unfun gameplay sections, weird writing choices, and just a general air of oddness to the game that I guess I just repressed from my memories. For me, that is part of the charm, but that won't hold true for everyone, and thankfully my mongoloid brain has evolved beyond feeling the need to defend something just because I like it. You can enjoy things that are not perfect. It's okay, I promise. Time has most definitely not been kind to Kingdom Hearts. I said it at the start, and I think it holds true that the team behind the first Kingdom Hearts nailed a wild amount of things on their first go. But they also made Atlantica, so I think that all kind of cancels out. This is one of those games where it's very much a play it only if you are really interested kind of recommendation. If you would prefer something that's held up a little bit better to the test of time and still has some of the Disney and some of the weird that comes from this game, but's just significantly less shitty to play, Kingdom Hearts 2 is there for you. And if you're listening to me talk right now, then you know the whole story for Kingdom Hearts 1. You've made it to the end of the video. And you're more than well enough equipped with the knowledge to go boot up the game and be as confused as a lot of kids were when they started up Kingdom Hearts 2 for the first time. It's part of the experience, and therein lies my parting sentiment. Kingdom Hearts is holistically a very gate-kept and outwardly impenetrable series for someone to get into. There's a large crowd of people that are convinced that just because Nomura is able to have spin-off games cover his ass when he writes poorly and leaves plot holes as wide as the Grand Canyon, well, they're convinced that Kingdom Hearts is one of the most fantastically complex things on the planet. And while I am most definitely not a lore master, I'll never claim to be, I'm just a guy that likes the series, I can say with certainty that Kingdom Hearts is not Finnegan's Wake. That's one of the reasons I wanted to make a video like this at all in the first place. If you wanted something that could act as a non-judgmental entry point for people who hear the title Kingdom Hearts 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue and have their eyes glaze over, well, I hope that I've provided something that makes that first step a little easier. I think the most important thing you can take away from this video is that just because something isn't quite how you remember it, that doesn't mean those memories are worthless. A lot of the things that I didn't enjoy about replaying the game now, I loved back in the before times of the early 2000s. Kingdom Hearts was and is very much a gaming experience of its time, and I look back so fondly on summer afternoons, sometimes after baseball and soccer games, those times when I would just plop myself down in the living room and just sink into this game. And how could I discount the fact that this was one of the first games that my dad, who hates video games, bought for me when I was a kid? I don't know if my dad's ever going to watch this video, but if you are watching, Dad, thank you. It mattered. It's not perfect, but it was perfect for me at the time, and I'm thankful for that. Oh, holy shit. I think that's it. I think the video is done now. It is so nice to be able to say that. I wanted to do this a long time ago, and I started it a long time ago, last year as a matter of fact. And then when I got through the first and second chapter of this video and realized just how extensive of a project this was going to be, I shelved it in service of finishing some other projects. And then it just kind of stayed shelved. What with the announcement of a Steam port happening, I figure I might as well try and catch some of that hype. If you're listening to me and this video has like 200 views, then that did not happen. But I am prepared for that outcome, and I think just being able to have this out there is something I can be proud of and satisfied with. It's a lot of work summarizing, praising, and criticizing a game that dominated your childhood. I mean, I basically wrote a fucking novella's worth of script. If you have made it to here, genuinely, thank you for watching. This took a Herculean effort to get done, and I'm really proud of the final product. I would ask that you do a couple things if you've made it to this point. Please, it is completely free and helps a ton if you can like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment for me. That alone is huge in getting YouTube to recommend this video to other people. While all my other videos are not nearly as long as this one, I would also suggest that if you enjoyed this video, go check out my other video essays. They're a lot of fun. And finally, if you could go follow me on Twitch, that would be amazing. I stream over there frequently when I'm not at my day job or editing videos for this channel. It's live, so it's obviously a lot more direct communication with me, and I'd love to have you there. All of these links will be down in the description if you're interested, and all of the names that are scrolling by on your screen now are the people who are subscribed to me over on Twitch as well as my YouTube members. It's $5 a month on either platform, and it goes a long way to allowing me to justify doing crazy things like working on a stupidly long video essay just like this one. That's all I've got for you though. Please tell me all of your best and worst memories of Kingdom Hearts down in the comments, and let me know if you want to see me give the second game the same treatment as I did here. Assuming this does well, I would be more than happy to give it a go. And again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for watching.